Hi, everyone. Dr. Megan Ford, Director of the UGA Love and Money Center, back with you today. I am so pleased to have joining me Ed Combs to talk a little bit about one of his books and one of the books that I highly recommend for anyone interested in the financial therapy space. Ed, your book is The Healthy Love and Money Way. So today, I'd love for you to kind of just give us a summary. We're going to break it down a little bit about what you might find between the
Yeah.
covers.
Yeah.
This book, and yeah, take it away. Tell us what Healthy Love and Money Way is about in kind of a brief summary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Megan, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for the work that you guys are doing at the Love and Money Center, and it's an honor to be a part of this author series that you have going. So, The Healthy Love and Money Way was written, I'm losing track of time, but 3 to 4 years ago it came out. And in the personal finance space, most books are written as if there's only a single person to
Mm.
consider.
Right.
And that's great if you're single.
Yep.
But most of us, or many of us, are not single. We have other people in our life to consider while we're trying to make our financial decisions. And so the Healthy Love and Money Way was written out of this frustration about what's the resource that helps couples figure out how to navigate money together. And
Mm.
so that was, and that's really, I mean, the whole thrust of Healthy Love and Money, my financial planning and financial therapy business is how do we continually get better at helping couples navigate money together? So that's the main thrust of the book is like, how do we
Mhm.
help couples navigate money together?
Yeah. As you know, I'm a big couples and money nerd myself.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's probably why I enjoy your work so much, and specifically this book, is because I think that there are limited resources when it comes to couples and money specifically. You're right. There's a lot that's aimed at the individual and what the individual can do. But I know you and I, being systems thinker, we think a little bit differently about how individual advice works within relationships and systems.
We're thinking about trying to work with couples and help them figure out how to navigate money together. You may have one partner that's leading the charge on what to do financially, but inevitably they're going to run into their partner who has their own set of ideas about what to do with money. And that sets this conflict up, especially when one partner is developing more expertise or knowledge around money. There almost becomes this power differential between like this person knows more than this person. And so as professionals, how do we help consider these many different layers or dynamics that are all coloring the way that the couple moves through their financial decisions together?
Yeah. It's like this asymmetry that starts to develop with couples, especially if one is a little bit more keen to learn about finances or feels that they're more naturally sort of gifted maybe in that area. Or I know some that
Yes.
feel that they're a little bit more naturally gifted or inclined just to put themselves in the position of kind of leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so I think that question for us as professionals is what's that lens or set of lenses that we can develop to look through to try to make sense out of what's going on with the couple that's going to give us guidance on how we're trying to work with them. And for me, the concept of attachment theory has caught my attention and held my attention for many, many years now. And so I think attachment theory offers a lens for understanding and explaining why are couples struggling to navigate their finances together. And so in the Healthy Love and Money Way, I use a lens of attachment theory to try to explain why couples are having a tough time connecting with each other around their finances.
Yeah. I think that, of the resources available for couples too, to have more information within the book too about the lens itself and the theory itself is really useful, because you do go into some description of that within the book and try and highlight more about attachment theory.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the book is written for the general couple, right? It's not written for professionals, but I think as professionals, you can read it and start to become more familiar with what is this theory? Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. And so I think just getting that first pass understanding of attachment theory, how that might explain some of the disconnect around the finances is it is about the money, but it's also about the sense of relational security, how I view myself and how I view others in relationship. And so, yes, we're working on that relationship with money, but we're also working on that relationship with self and others and trying to bring those all together.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's written in a really approachable way for couples to consume. I've recommended it to newlyweds. I've recommended it to couples who have been in relationships for years, and it just offers them a new perspective, I think, and also especially those who kind of bump up against this area or this topic of money can invite them to approach the conversation a little bit differently and some tools in which to understand their partner differently and themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, part of the motivation for writing this book was my own frustration and trying to talk with my wife about money and why was I having all these feelings and moments of frustration. And here I'm trying to do the right thing, but it doesn't feel like it's coming across that way. And so I do think trying to make it approachable and safe for couples to enter into the conversation. And, just this whole idea, it feels easy to take for granted now, but we all have a personal history and relationship with money, and it's all stored in our memory bank. And so, just that as an even foundational idea, I think is very helpful for people to consider. I had never considered it before. And now it's like something I just take for granted.
Mhm. I think, yeah, it's really interesting to hear that the inspiration for some of this was personal. Would you have more to share about kind of the inspiration or the process of taking on this project?
Yeah. I mean, the whole broader journey that led me to develop the skills and knowledge that I have is very personal. And it's, you know, for me coming out of the background of being a professional firefighter, meeting my wife at a time when she was finishing dental school, we existed in very different social worlds and kind of social expectations, and with that, financial expectations. And so I had a sense of like, I want to do a good job with this. And I had aspirations to be able to have higher income. And so there's a lot there that I was trying to figure out. But, as we partnered and got to know each other more, as partners do, you get to know their families and you hear their family stories around money and relationships. And there had been some really difficult addiction issues and some really difficult divorce issues that were interwoven with negative financial outcomes. And on my own family side, I was watching some stress between my parents and my brother and financial, like, what's our responsibility to him? And so these questions really nagged at me about how do I move through these more effectively? And most of the personal finance books never really addressed family relationships
Yep.
around money. That was, here's how to create a better budget. Well, great. But what if I can't even engage the person in a budget conversation?
Yeah.
And, I'm really interested in building wealth, and this person seems to not care two flips about building wealth at all.
Right.
And well, now what do we do?
Yes, all of the complexities when you try to go ahead and apply some of the things that personal finance books, textbooks, knowledge share is really where I think some of that rub is, and where we need to be attending to a bit better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's given the benefit of the doubt. Most personal finance books assume the knowledge given is a net benefit or net good,
Yes.
and yet, you know, not everyone reads that information from that perspective. So, the healthy level anyway doesn't get too philosophical about all those issues. We try to stay more practical in the book and really outline like, here's a way of understanding couples. Here's a psychological lens that has, 8 decades of research behind it, which I think is really valuable too. This is not just Cosmo magazine, pop
Mhm.
quizzes. This is based and grounded in decades of research and understanding how our human relationships come to shape the structure of our mind and what we expect. I try to bring it down, and it is oversimplified, but I think it still has powerful impact about understanding, there's 4 broad patterns for the way we experience relationships: secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. The securely attached person generally feels good about themselves and generally feels comfortable in relationship with others. And we can imagine how that might set you up for a healthier, productive financial conversations.
Right.
I don't think that's hard to imagine.
Mhm. Right.
But if you have that anxious attachment, you're going to be more prone to worrying about how am I being perceived and received in the way I make my financial decisions. And is it ever enough? And so how do we work with that? And we are more prone to relational threats, like perceiving relational threat that's there or not there.
Scanning for danger.
Scanning for danger, 100%. A funny aside, but kind of related to this book, as this journey continues to unfold for me, is my wife and I just got back from celebrating her 20 and 25-year college and dental school reunions. We had a great, fantastic trip. We're walking off the plane home in Charlotte, and my brain all of a sudden is like, she's 5 steps ahead of me. She's angry at me.
Mm,
And before, like, that would just kind of send me more spiraling. Maybe I did something wrong. I upset her, not directly tied to money, but it was like, we just come off this trip where, like, my own insecurities about who am I. She had this high status education. I had a more modest approach. What do I want to say? But because I've learned about attachment styles and my own anxious attachment patterns, I was able to question and say, like, wait a second, is she actually angry at me? Or am
mhm.
I just reading threat cues that are not there?
Right, right. Yeah.
And then, a few more steps later, and then she smiles, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's not upset at me. But what happens is when we start to perceive relational threat and we never repair or recognize it, the quality of our relating goes down. So then when we need to make money decisions, it becomes more conflictual. So the more that we can become aware of where are we coming from, the healthier and better chance we have of getting through money conversations.
Yeah.
Now, that's the anxious side. The avoidant side is more the arm's length distance. I don't really do relationships. I do me. And you can imagine that becomes more challenging to navigate money because
Mm,
that person wants to do it alone
yeah.
and is a little more standoffish.
Yeah.
These are broad generalizations. And then, the disorganized attachment is a little bit of both sides of anxious and avoidant. And so, I walk through that. And I think that the hardest reality that I've um, walked through in this book is both like self-help for others and part memoir. And it's woven in between as the book unfolds. And so
Yes.
part of my learning and growth has been about one, just accepting that trauma is a real thing, then accepting that like I've experienced trauma, and then actually being open to the trauma that I've experienced and walking through that. And that's been a very multi-year long, like multiple therapists journey and coming out the other side. But that healing arc to me is foundational to also developing greater financial well-being for most couples, because what sets the stage for financial conflict is usually not just financial issues, it's unresolved traumas of many different types that then get mapped into how we approach relationships and money.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that was such a beautiful sharing of not only kind of the personal take on things, but also so informative in such a nice kind of clean, organized package for the audience here to learn a little bit more about the attachment styles and kind of how money and those attachment styles might connect and organize together. So thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering with our last minute or two, are there some key takeaways? If you had, some bullet points, somebody picks up this book in a bookshop, looks at the cover and thinks, I wonder what I'm going to find here. What are some things that you might offer?
Well, I think excitement. I mean, what's neat about telling this story is I'm just coming back from one of these reunions, and one of my wife's good friends was there sharing with other colleagues about my book and how great it was. And she said, it's so good that it's on recording. So I've listened to it twice. But part of what she shared was just a sense of calming, right? Because when we're reading these types of books, usually there's already so much anxiety loaded
Mhm.
into what we're experiencing
Yeah.
that it does help paint a picture that we can experience more time in calm. As I just shared, like I don't stay in a perfect state of calm by any stretch of the imagination,
Mhm.
but there's hope in that journey of healing and growth. And it's in the book. And so I think that that's really what readers are going to get most. And functionally, how you're going to get that is through that self help guidance plus a personal narrative where you'll be able to connect and see, like, oh, this is how it connects in my life. Okay. And there's space for self reflection written in the book because at least one of my personal habits, Megan, is I write in all my books.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's reflection questions at the end of every chapter with like lines where you can write in it. So, in that way, a little bit of a self help journal.
Yeah.
So, I
That's
think
great.
that's a very practical piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So grateful for you and your work in this arena, in this area. It's so beneficial for couples, for individuals to have a resource like the Healthy Love and Money Way to connect with. So I appreciate you sharing and giving us a brief glimpse into what is behind the cover there, the Healthy Love and Money Way. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. Take care.